Hey everyone, we're back on It's Breakthrough Time. I am super stoked about this guest we have on today. You guys are in for a treat. We have Jeff Fenster on. You guys, he has a lot of phenomenal credentials here that I'm just going to throw at you, but then we're going to actually hear from him who Jeff Fenster really is. But he is the founder of everbowl, which if you've never heard of it or been to it, you're missing out big time. It's the most phenomenal healthy acai bowl you ever had in your life. No joke. I'm not just saying it because he's on this podcast right now. It's amazing. But he's the founder of everbowl. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a Forbes professor. He has been top 100 entrepreneur in America under 35 in 2013, top 40 executive under 40 in the Business Journal in 2019. And he was a finalist for the CEO of the Year award. So with all that being said, Jeff, welcome to the show. Super happy to have you on.
Thank you so much. It's truly an honor, and I'm privileged to come and be on your show. So thank you. Huge fan of you and a huge fan of the show. So really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And so Jeff and I met. We connected at the GSD, the Growth Stack Drive Business Bootcamp. We were both speaking at that with Ken Jocelyn. And so I heard him speak, and just the whole vertical integration that he's going to be sharing, and his whole journey to becoming an entrepreneur, and now through entrepreneurship, it's just mind blowing, you guys. It made me think on such a larger scale of entrepreneurship. I was like, dang, I need to catch up. I mean, we're not that far apart in age. I need to step up my game a little bit. So Jeff, I'm just super excited to, let's just kick off by, who is Jeff? When did you start becoming an entrepreneur? How did you know you wanted to kind of get into this crazy world?
Well, it's a good question. I had no idea, when I'm a little older than you, I think, but when I graduated college in 2004, I had no idea what I wanted to do. There was no social media thing that we have today. There was no ability to understand with YouTube and see these individuals that are out there running companies. And so really it was, my parents said, get a career. So it was doctor, lawyer, or doctor, lawyer. So I went to law school to be a sports agent, and graduated law school in 2007 thinking I was going to be a sports agent. Had a job lined up and was excited about that career. And my third year of law school ended up having a little daughter and getting engaged. And so realized I didn't want to travel the world representing grownups. I wanted to be a present dad. And so when I was done, I finished law school and 6 figures in law school loans and no idea what I was going to do with my future, my career, my life. So I got a job. And I got a job selling payroll services for ADP, which is a huge payroll company. Yep. And I just kind of was going through the motions, making some good money. I was fortunate to be really successful there. My first 6 months, I was the top sales rep in the country, made a bunch of money, made a lot of awards, built a big ego. My head probably got about that big. And, I was 24 years old and thought, okay, I'm going to be an outside sales rep the rest of my life. This is chill. I can golf 3 times a week, make 6 figures, good quality of life. Everything was good. And I had earned a $17,000 bonus. And I went to my boss in January of 2008 and said, I'd like to have my $17,000 bonus. I just bought a house, and me, my fiance and daughter just moved in. And my boss said I had to wait till the end of the fiscal year. And I'll never forget that day, because I said, well, when's that? And she said, you'll get it in July. The fiscal year ends in June, and it's an annual bonus. So you'll wait till July. And so I just remember that moment feeling like I was in a prison cell. Like the rest of my future was going to be waiting for some arbitrary date to get my money, my promotion, my tenure, whatever it was going to be. It was like, okay, so I'm truly trading my time, my life, my most valuable asset for something I'd already earned. And so I went home that day really distraught, really down. And I spoke to my fiance and I said, listen, I want to threaten to quit. If they don't give me my money, I want to quit. And if I quit, I want to sell the house we just moved into, move in with my mom and dad, and start my own payroll company. And my fiance's like, well, okay, but let's hope that, realistically, they'll probably give you the raise, but I'm in. So I was like, okay, cool. So I went the next day to work and I said to my manager, Ashley, I said, listen, if you don't give me the raise, I'm going to quit. And I thought for sure they would keep me, number one sales rep. My head was this big. I was like, there's no way they're going to actually let me leave. And she called my bluff. And she said, look, there's nothing we can do. If you want to leave, leave. So truthfully, that day I quit my job, sold my house, moved in with my parents, my daughter, my fiance, and started a payroll company, not thinking I was an entrepreneur, but just because I realized I had to take control of my own future. And so there it was. That's how I kind of got into it. And, back then we didn't call ourselves entrepreneurs. We were business owners. And it was only later that it became more of actual career path, a real thing, something that we can talk about, something that we can really promote as a path for people who aren't set down the normal path of job. And there's nothing wrong with the career mind or the job, or someone who doesn't have an entrepreneurial mindset or want the ebb and flow and the roller coaster ride that is entrepreneurship. There's a lot of, it's an easier quality of life when when your next paycheck's coming, when your career trajectory, when you understand how your future could line up, 401k, retirement, etc. There is peace to that. There is a lot of enjoyment to that. It's just not who I am. So it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I totally feel that. And it's right. Like entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Just had somebody tell me that the other day. And I feel like I'm surrounded by so many entrepreneurs that sometimes I forget that there's like another world outside, you know what I mean? Like where somebody didn't want to be an entrepreneur. And so when a woman told me the other day, she's like, yeah, I like having the stability and the, knowing when my paycheck. And I was like, some days I would probably like that part, but I don't think I'd ever be happy in that. So I want to go back a little bit to that part where you actually, where your boss called your bluff. And what was that moment when you're like sitting in that office talking to her and she was like, well, you can leave. And like, what like happened in your mind and feeling like in your body of when you had to make that decision to either stay or go?
I mean, I am positive I went flush. I had the tingly feeling and the fear and anxiety and all of this rush of emotion, like, oh my God, now I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. Because either I tuck my tail between my legs and forevermore kind of just go through the motions, or I'm actually going to do this thing. And, this is the interesting part. And, when I'm speaking and I get asked this question, a lot of people say, well, Jeff, I want to do it, but I have a mortgage or I have a family. And I say to them, truthfully, I had just bought a house. I'd been in my house for less than 4 months. I had a fiance, I had a daughter, I had a six figures in law school loans. I had all of those same things. So all of that pressure was on me. And I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do here? But then I realized I can sell the house, right? So I can alleviate one of those burdens. I was fortunate and blessed to have a support system of parents that were willing to let me, my daughter, and my fiance move in. Not everyone has that. So I do understand that was special that I had that. However, it was a moment of, these are the moments in life that define what you want and what you get. And everyone says, well, I don't get those opportunities. The opportunities are there. You just have to recognize that they tend to be disguised as either hard work, trials and tribulations, a big hill in front of you, uncertainty, fear, doubt, you name it. And so in that moment, I really just had all of this emotional stuff happening. But fortunately, as I mentioned, I think my ego was huge because I was so successful. But then this one little thing in the back of my head clicked in. You can always get another job. Mm-hmm. There's more than ADP out there. And if I'm successful at ADP, can't I go to their competitor? If I quit and it doesn't work out, can't I just go to Paychex and say, hey, listen, I worked at ADP. Here was my success. I started my own company because I thought I could do it. I was wrong. I want to sell payroll for you. And I know how to sell payroll, right? So I always had a backup plan. And I feel like a lot of people fail to remember or realize that they also have that same backup plan when they're too scared to take the leap. Because jobs are dime a dozen, right? It might not be the exact same job. It might not be the same situation, but whether you're a nurse or a lawyer or an accountant or a financial analyst or a construction worker or a restaurant or a chef or a waiter, it doesn't really matter, right? I can go list every job in the world. There's usually a secondary company out there similar that you can go get a job if you were good at it. So you're not really risking that much. You're risking obviously your immediate financial future. So if you're not prepared financially to do it, you're risking sleep and aging because being an entrepreneur definitely does that. And stability. But if you really believe in yourself, if you really believe in your idea and you want to go for it, go for it.
That is so good. It's like sometimes we just blow up this image in our head of like the worst situation possible, when in complete reality, exactly what you just said, like it's so brilliant where you just like minimize it and you're like, no, it's actually not that big of risk. We blow it up to be a massive risk in our head, but like, you're so right. I mean, you were crushing it at this job. So really any sales job then, I mean, you know how to sell payroll, but you could have also sold anything. Like if you were crushing it at that, I mean, heck, I was a commercial sales rep for my first job out of college for the first 3 years. And if I can sell flooring, by God, I think I can sell anything.
Well, exactly, right. And also the other thing that I think over the last 10 years, a lot of people experienced is there's not as much stability in your corporate job either. You think there is, right? Because every 2 weeks you get that paycheck.
Yeah.
But if the powers that be at the top make bad choices or mistakes, or the industry changes, or financial meltdown crisis, or COVID, right? Or all of these crazy things that are outside influences happen, you could be laid off, right? Your job could dry up. There are so many different things that can happen. So there is, I mean, stability or the thought of having that stability, while I appreciate it and it's needed for a lot of people, and that's great. I think it disguises itself because it's not as real as you think it is.
That's so good. So good. So I think a really important part to mention again too is the support of your fiance is super cool, that she was like, yeah, let's do this thing. And then your parents, you know, moving in with them. And that is a huge thing. I always say that too with my support system. It's if you don't have that, like sometimes like I have a compassion for people that don't have that, because I've been blessed with it as well. And there's a lot to be said about that, and taking risk, and just knowing you kind of have that net a little bit to fall into, you know, like, so when you move to your parents' home, with your fiance, with your daughter, how long were you guys there? And then what was that process like, starting that payroll business?
So I was there from February or March of 2008 until I got married in August of 2009, because my fiance was pretty adamant that we get out.
Yeah. No, why?
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, this is kind of nice. Free, no rent, no electric bills, food in the kitchen, built-in babysitters. I mean, it was really nice.
Date night every night.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was pretty good. But no, she asked me if I could do everything to get us out, or just go rent something by the time we got married. So that was kind of the pressure to be successful in what we were doing. So, you know, the day I started my payroll company, I recruited my buddy out of ADP to quit as well. And he took over the operations side, and we started it together. We co-founded the company. He's one of my best friends. And funny story, I actually got him the job at ADP, and then I stole him from ADP.
Right out.
But the thing is it was just the same thing that made me successful selling payroll, made me successful starting my own company. I make friends with as many humans as I can. And when you do that, you build an army, you build a tribe, right? Too many people live in this mindset that if you're successful, I can't be successful. Instead of realizing that everyone can be successful, that there is an abundance of opportunity, and build everyone up. And so what I did selling payroll at ADP was I made friends with my clients. And by doing that, they trusted me, and therefore they trusted the process of switching to ADP and being with a big company. So when it came time to switch from ADP to iChecks, which was my company, you know, I would say, hey, Tori, listen, I know I just sold you payroll at ADP. I hope you're happy. Yep, things are good. Great. I decided to go off on my own and start my own payroll company. I really believe that I can provide better quality, better customer service, and equal technology. And the good thing is the payroll system is pretty specific. So we all follow the same sets of rules. And I kind of laid out this whole spiel. And then I said, listen, Tori, if you'll take a chance on me, I promise that if anything goes wrong, I will personally walk you back to ADP and make sure that none of your employees suffer and that you never feel the effects. And I'm going to give you a discount. And so I would hope that you'd be willing to believe in me and support me and my goal here. And I'm going to take care of you as one of my legacy customers. How does that sound? And a lot of them said yes. And so it was really good. I had a ton of support from my clients, from my existing previous clients. And then I kept doing what made me successful at ADP. I started understanding the power of vertical integration. I started understanding the power of having sales reps work on my behalf, because I made friends with them. And so I leveraged the relationships and the relationship capital that I was building to do that.
Wow, that's smart. So then do you still have that business as well?
No. So that business we sold in 2011.
Gotcha. And then you went into everbowl.
Correct.
Okay. So we got to talk about that jump.
No, sorry. So no, I sold that in 2011. I started a recruiting agency while I had my payroll business that I sold in 2012. And then in 2012, I had a handful of companies fail, or just not be successful. Let's choose the better word. And then I started a digital marketing agency, and I partnered with Neil Patel for about 4 years. And then 2016, I started everbowl.
Okay. So during those years of 2012 you were failing, right? You were hearing a lot of no's. So how did you handle that as, a younger entrepreneur? You had quite a bit of experience from the payroll and the other businesses, but like when you started, it was all going, fairly well, it sounds like. And then you hit 2012 and then you were hearing a lot of no's and challenges. So how did you handle that as a leader?
I think it's part of the process. There's good times, there's bad times. Unfortunately, my approach changed in 2012. I had two big successes out the gate. So I kind of thought, ego again, I had this Midas touch, and I lost sight of what the foundational principles of business are. I mean, why I'm able to jump from industry to industry, and I believe experience is one of the most overrated prerequisites to starting a company. I can jump into any industry and I feel like I can disrupt it and kill it. I just think I'm going to be one of the best. I don't care what industry it is, and not because I'm special, right? I'm an ordinary guy. I just know what extra stuff to do to be extraordinary in business, and realize that whether it's restaurants, digital marketing, payroll, recruiting, technology companies, businesses are still businesses, right? You still have P&Ls, you still have balance sheets, you still got to bring in more revenue than you spend. You still got to have the basics down. And so I lost sight of that in 2012, and I became more of an ideologist. Yeah, I was really focusing more on these bigger principles than I was on the business. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs make that mistake because we're so passionate about something. Mm-hmm. So what I was passionate about was, my biggest failure was a company called Equity Circle, which was, I was trying to help legalize equity-based crowdfunding, which is now legal. The Jobs Act actually legalized it. But prior to this, and it was in 2012 when that happened, but prior to 2012, it was illegal for me to crowdfund my startups, to get money from, for those who don't understand what that means. In order for me to raise money, I either had to know you and you be a friend or a family member, or you had to be an accredited investor, basically rich. And as a young entrepreneur in my 20s, I didn't know a ton of rich people, right? And my friends didn't have much money. So I had to go to private equity, which I did with my payroll business, and venture capital, and these professional investors who can take advantage of you, who don't really care about you, and it's a business, right? And I thought, well, if I need to raise $100,000, why isn't it easier if I just go to 1,000 people and get $100, than go to one person who I don't know who has $100,000, but it was illegal. Oh. And so I was trying to help legalize equity-based crowdfunding. And the whole reason it was illegal is because back in the early 20s and 30s, when they made it illegal, there was, snake oil salesmen on the side of the street swindling, unfortunately, the inexperienced people out of money. Well, in 2012 and 2011, with technology and social media, you can do all the homework you want. I can tell you, hey, I got this amazing thing, and you can go to Google and learn about it, right? So it's a different world now. And I started a change.org petition, and I was going to have this crowdfunding platform. So once it was legalized, you, Tori, me, anyone could start up a company, go on this platform and start raising micro investments, $5, $8, $100, $1,500, whatever amount from the masses. Mm-hmm. And I got hundreds of thousands of signatures, and I was beating the street, and I was the guy on the front line, and it was great. And it got legal. We legalized equity-based. I was part of the process. I was not the main piece, but equity-based crowdfunding became legal through the Jobs Act of 2012. And it was an amazing day for entrepreneurs everywhere. However, what I failed to realize is that day that happened, the businesses that were already built with these amazing platforms and had already spent all of their energy waiting for it to be legal, but were doing all the business side, the stuff that I do, wow, were successful. So I helped legalize it so other people could be successful. My technology was outdated, was behind the curve, and I failed. And I lost 6 figures of my own money trying to make that thing fly. And that was a valuable lesson. Again, remembering that passion about the cause is great, but there's a business underneath it, and businesses and businesses are run by business people, and successful businesses are run because you do the successful things that businesses require. And sometimes you have to make business decisions, even if it is not aligned always with what your bigger passion is, right? And so I fell in love with equity-based crowdfunding, the idea, and lost sight of the business. And so that was part of why I failed, and it humbled me back to realize again what makes successful businesses successful.
So where do you think you got your business savviness from?
Mentorship, learning, School of Hard Knocks. I started a payroll business early, and we raised private equity capital. So I raised capital from 2 different private equity firms back in 28 and 29. And so I was around a lot of sophisticated people. I was in
Yeah.
meetings at 24 and 25 years old with billionaires and companies that were sold for, 8 and 9 figures. And I was listening to, being asked to produce reports and board meetings and KPIs and a lot of data information that I had no idea what they were. So I was sucking it up like a sponge. Like, oh, you want a what report? Okay, I'd write it down. So, back then it wasn't Google, it was AOL, I think, but I went and AOL'd it and learned what it was. And if I didn't know, I reached out to mentors and friends and said, hey, help me with this. Like, I wasn't going to let anyone know I didn't know what they were talking about.
Right.
I was acting as if, because I believe in just-in-time learning, and I think entrepreneurs need to realize the power of that. Too many people sit on the sideline because they don't feel they're equipped and capable, and it's true. You're not yet, but that's okay. Start anyway, because you will learn what you need to just in time. And so, hey, next board meeting with the private equity firm, I had that KPI report that they wanted. I figured I learned what it was just in time. I'll never forget, I wrote KPI once on a piece of paper and I didn't even know what that meant. And I was like, KPI, okay. Let's go figure that out. But that's okay, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to have it all figured out. Just in time learning is great. And with smartphones in our pockets now, just take notes. And as soon as you leave the meeting, in an hour, you can learn all those acronyms and all that information.
I think so. There's a lot of young entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs who listen to this podcast. And so what would be the first, first, how do you get in those rooms? Like sometimes people are just, they're jumping right out of college. They're in their mid to upper 20s and they're like, that's awesome. Like I don't know a millionaire even, let alone a billionaire, like how do younger entrepreneurs or aspiring, just going into their career? What would you recommend to them as far as like getting around people who you want to become like?
Well, so I'm going to say that this is the most important thing I can ever teach anybody. And it's the thing that has helped me be successful. If someone said, what is the one thing that has made you successful in life? It's relationship capital. It's who you know. That sphere, that circle of influence that you have access to is the most important thing you can have. I could give a 22-year-old out of college $1 million, or I could give them my Rolodex. They will make more money with my Rolodex than that $1 million. They may think I want the $1 million at 22 and they're wrong. And so that's the inexperience hitting them. So the number one thing you can do is young aspiring entrepreneurs, young aspiring anything, and not even young, anyone at any age, is continuously build your Rolodex by making friends with more people. I don't mean go to networking events and sit there and trade business cards, because to me, that's a waste of time. I don't ever do that. I actually mean build quality relationships with as many humans as you can, and do it from a perspective of leading with value. I'm going to do a little plug here, so sorry, but
hey, plug away. That's why you're on here.
On LinkedIn, I was hired by LinkedIn Learning. I have 2 courses there. They are free, so I'm not making any money with this plug, but one of them is on building relationship capital. So go to LinkedIn Learning and check it out. And then for your guests, hit me up. I do have a book coming out called Relationship Capital Bank Account, which is all about this. It's coming out in the next 2 to 4 weeks. I don't know when this is going to air, but hit me up if you want a free copy of the book. This stuff that I'm teaching is the most important thing I've ever learned. It's how I've navigated and how I have become successful or appear to be successful in areas. It's because of who I know. So to get in those rooms, it's about leading with value. It's about understanding that if you make friends, and I use that term, and it seems so light, make friends, of course, yeah. But people don't realize the power of making friends. They don't realize that by making friends, you are building a tribe of humans that are going out into the world, doing their own thing, and opportunity just falls in your lap. My friends always say I'm the luckiest person. They say, oh, Fenster luck, because magical things happen. But they don't realize that magical things are happening because of the seeds I'm planting every single day, that occasionally one of those trees grows into something that helps me. Yeah. And it sounds selfish, right? I say planting seeds, I say leveraging relationships. It sounds like it's all bad, but it's not. Because what I mean is, and Tori, you did this the first time we met, exactly the definition of what I would explain, which is lead with value. We met, you understood that I'm trying to grow everbowl. You had a relationship with someone who may be able to get me into a marquee stadium and a great opportunity for me. You led with that, which is amazing, right? Because now I'm indebted to you, whether or not you feel I am, whether or not it's written down, whether or not you're ever going to call that in, you've done something awesome for me. So I naturally want to return the favor. And I'm naturally going to think about you and your business and what drives you as I go through the world. And I might not be able to pay you back today, but if in 2 years from today, I have an opportunity and I'm like, oh my God, Tori would love this. This is perfect for her. And I call you out of the blue. Well, great. That was a seed you planted 2 years ago by making one introduction for me, right?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. And so I teach about being more interested than interesting and leading with value. And that's what I did with my payroll business. That's how I was able to get in the room. And so the long-winded way to answer your question, when I was selling payroll, I realized that rather than me go one-on-one with payroll business owners and say, hey, Tori, I'd love to sell you payroll, I wanted gatekeepers. I wanted to work smarter, not harder. So I went to accountants, CPAs, lawyers, and bankers who deal with business owners all the time and said, okay, Mr. CPA, I know you represent 300 clients. I'm going to bring you business. What is your perfect? I work with business owners every day too. How about I bring all of my payroll clients to you to be the CPA, and I tell them I work with you exclusively because you understand our systems, etc. And in turn, why don't you introduce me to your business owners that you represent? Well, naturally, one of the people that one of my big CPA partners in my payroll business represented was a big private equity guy. That's how I got in front of the private equity guy who ended up investing 7 figures into my payroll business. And that's what got me into the room with the private equity firm back in 2008. And it was a relationship I started with ADP in 2007, not even realizing at the time that he may or may not have had that relationship. It didn't matter. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, and I'm going to give one more example because it's the most important one. In 2009, I got one of my biggest payroll clients ever. And it was actually the brother of the woman at the grocery store that in my community. She was the checkout clerk that I had just made small talk with for 3 years. She was always there. We just made small talk. Hey, how are you? Oh, things are good. Yeah. I didn't just go on my phone and ignore her. And she didn't just go through the motions and ignore me. We connected. And she knew I'd started my payroll business. She had known, my family. I had known her, but never outside of Albertsons. Like it was exclusively in the checkout line at Albertsons was our relationship. But 3 years later, she says to me, hey, my brother was just complaining that his payroll company just blew it up and he's looking for somebody. Should I make an introduction for you? And I said, sure, thinking it was going to be, 5 employees, small little company.
Right.
It was one of the biggest clients I ever got. It was a 6-figure a year contract for my company. Wow. My friends, oh my God, you're so lucky. Like, how did you get that? I got it because I invested in this human 3 years of energy to understand her and had no want from it, just made friends with her. But she understood me too. And we invested ourselves in each other. There are 7 billion people on the planet. You genuinely know 100 or 2 that you could say more than their name. So when you think about your tribe, the bigger you grow that, the bigger the opportunities will come. And then they start to fall in your lap. And as you continuously do this every day, momentum happens and opportunities happen. And that's creating your own luck. And that's going to make success happen.
Oh my gosh. All right, everybody. So go back like 2 minutes and listen to that like 3 times, because that is fire. Like that's amazing, Jeff. Like, thank you so much for sharing that too. And that's your heart, right? It's like, that's what I said when we started this thing. I'm like, there's all these credentials. They're, a serial entrepreneur, all these things, everbowl, badass acai company, health company. But like, that's what it's all about right there, is your heart and the authenticity. And quite honestly, that's why I asked you to be on the podcast too, is because when I first talked to you at that boot camp and then I saw you speak on stage too, it was just the authenticity and the realness. And you could just tell you're one of the good ones, right? You're one of the good ones. And you actually genuinely care about humans. And we need more of that in the world. So thanks so much for sharing your heart and for sharing the relational part, with just being friends with people, being friends. It's just, and I think after COVID and quarantine and all of that, it just like separated us even more, just because it separated us, but brought us together all at the same time, because we could speak virtually with, almost anyone, it seemed like. But now, like when you walk through the grocery store, I don't feel like people are talking as much to each other or to the clerks or anything, because we have so many shields blocking us.
And people forget that everybody is somebody's brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, right?
Yeah.
So like if I want to get in front of Jeff Bezos, he's probably not going to answer my call.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, unfortunately he's divorced. So this example doesn't work as well. He just got divorced, but rewind 3 years ago. If I wanted to get in front of Jeff Bezos and I call him, he's not going to answer my call. But if I got in front of his wife through her sister, his wife's going to have influence to have him pick up my phone call. And
Yeah.
maybe his wife's sister is on the soccer field with her child when I'm on the soccer field with my child. And I take the time to get to know them. And again, I don't know that it's Jeff Bezos' wife's sister. I'm just saying you never know. So when you have these preconceived notions and ideas, and you see this at networking events, which is why I don't go. Oh, what do you do? I always answer the same way. I sell acai bowls today. And so I immediately don't want anyone to know what I do. I want them to know, do they want to know me, or do they want to know what I do because they want to see how much value I may or may not be able to provide them? Exactly. Where do you live? What do you do? Those are questions we do to basically qualify how much energy we're going to put into this interaction. One of the first, and this is a last thing I'll say on this. But
I love it. Keep going.
I spoke at Traffic and Conversion Summit years ago, back in 2013. And I was really honing this relationship capital thing. I'm a guy who traditionally wears a backwards hat and workout clothes, even to like nicer events. Yeah. And so this was back before, entrepreneurship. So, business attire was true business attire, and everyone was in jackets and ties, and it was very, stuffy. And there I am in athletic clothes, not a backwards hat at this event, but athletic gear. And I look like the help. And I'm walking around before the stage, and I'm trying to talk to people, and most people are like, trying to get through the conversation for me to go talk to someone else in a jacket and a tie. And lo and behold, I go on stage, and now all of a sudden I see a lot of the people that blew me off beforehand, and I use it. I said, look, guys, this is the power of relationships. You don't know who everyone is. I went through here, and half of you didn't want to talk to me because you thought I was the help. And now I'm on stage, and now you have to listen to me for the next 45 minutes. Afterwards, they wanted to talk to me, right? But that again shows that we got to stop pre-qualifying relationships. The people who aren't finding the opportunities, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you need to have every door open possible. Yeah. Realize that you never know who that person you're talking to is, who they know, what they can do for you. So if you treat everybody like they're the person that you need to speak to, and you treat them with respect, and you actually get a relationship with them, I'm telling you, the world opens up so much opportunity, and all your businesses will be successful. When you need a job, that'll be there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the number one thing. I can't stress that enough.
So true. Gosh, I love that. And as you're talking there too, it popped in my mind. One of the places that I feel like you meet the coolest people is flying. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, when they fly, they put their headphones on, they put the earbuds in, whatever, they sit down, and they're always like, oh my God, I hate when the person next to me talks to me. I talk to every damn person on the plane, every single time. I'm that like annoying chick that like, unless they totally give me the cold shoulder, but I talk to almost every single person, and I could write a book on how many people I've met 30,000 feet in the air. And you know what? I thought about that, but when I just said that out loud, maybe that is my first book. But it is, the relationships are everything. You just took it home with that. So thank you for that. Yeah. And then, we have to talk, we got to wind, come to a close here soon, but, I want to talk a little bit about everbowl, because man, it like your whole vertical integration is just insane and so freaking cool. And I think it's just going to expand a lot of people's minds. So give us a little rundown of, starting everbowl and what you've developed there with that.
Sure. So when I sold my digital marketing clients off in 2015, I was kind of hanging around and driving my wife and kids crazy. And, my wife said, go do something you're passionate about. I was in a position where I didn't have to eat what I kill every day. So I could focus, going back to 2012, something I'm truly passionate about. Yeah. But do it the right way. Take all of the experience I've accumulated over the years and now apply it, and not just be an idealist, not idealist, just idealist.
I mean, it sounded right the first time you said it, so I wasn't going to say anything.
Idealist.
Yeah,
I didn't need to be an idealist this time, but I wanted to really attack the lack of healthy eating, or the obesity crisis in America, the disease, heart disease, stroke, obesity, hypertension. Why are we killing ourselves when we know eating bad is bad for us, when we know exercise is good for us? It's the new smoking. Why are we eating, fast food every day? And so I started everbowl with the whole goal of helping everyone live an unevolved lifestyle, which is to live actively and eat stuff that's been around forever. And I realized that if I could make healthy eating affordable, filling, delicious, and accessible, I could help people do that and build a big business doing it at the same time. So the other part of my business plan, what has allowed me to be successful in businesses, is a concept called vertical integration, which is understanding that I'm a entrepreneur. I like startups. That's my superpower. So by me solving my business problems with more startups, I start to create a moat around my company. I start to build different pieces that make it much harder for competition to penetrate, for weird things in the industry to kill me, like COVID, and build the systematic approach to scaling my startup and really put speed behind it and power. And so I know I said a lot of words there that might not mean anything yet, but what I did was I started a restaurant, and it's called Everbowl. It's an acai bowl chain. Build your own acai bowls, pitaya bowls, etc. I started it in October 2016. As of this recording, we have 46 stores open right now in 9 states and 177 more under development. Wow. Coast to coast. And how did we do that? It was through vertical integration. So what does that mean? And I'll say it quick because I know we don't have forever. But I realized that building restaurants was tough. That's a lot of the pain points for restaurants. It costs a lot of money. It's hard to scale. You have to find construction workers. You have to go through permits, etc. So I started a construction and fabrication company called We Build, where all we do is build out my everbowl stores. So I have the construction component that is one of my companies. And then the importing. I'm importing weird exotic superfoods from all over the world. So I started my own import company and my own manufacturing company called Unevolved Products, where I import my own superfoods, manufacture them, and provide them back to my store. So I've taken 2 of the biggest pain points that I was dealing with my first store, cost to build and time to build, and finding my products and cost of my products. And I solved it by building and starting my own companies for them. So I have these 3 companies, but they all work together and they're all vertically integrated to support my main business, Everbowl. And so now I can build my stores faster and cheaper than ever before on my own timeline. And I can import my own superfoods and control my own supply chain. So when something weird like COVID happens and I can't get access to supply chain, or lumber goes through the roof and construction labor isn't happening, I control both of those. So we're opening, right now we're able to open 2 to 3 stores a month.
Wow.
Even during this crazy labor intensive COVID situation. I have plenty of product because I control my own supply chain. So while COVID is impacting a lot of my competitors and slowing down a lot of growth for a lot of restaurants, it's not hurting us as bad because we're vertically integrated. And so as a result of that, it also makes me more attractive to talent, because talent wants to go to growing companies. So as we grow and continue to disrupt and do these things, I'm attracting world-class people to join our team, which only makes us grow faster. We're attracting media attention because we're growing so fast and we're doing these unique things, which gets us marketing opportunities, which builds the brand, which builds more customers, which helps us grow faster. And so what's happening is I'm building this snowball effect. And so that was the very quick version of vertical integration. I usually go very deep into it, but we talked about relationships, which is more passionate, bigger passion of mine. So
every time you tell that story, I'm just like, geez, it's so freaking cool. And it's brilliant. It's a brilliant business model. And every time, I've literally, since I met you, I've gone into Everbowl. Like, I'm seriously probably like twice a week. I'm not kidding you. Like, it is legitimately, I get them all over the country when I travel. It's just like, they're healthy, but like, there is literally nothing better than Everbowl, like hands down. I was talking to one of my friends, Nate May, probably from the boot camp too. And I was talking to him. I was like, no joke. Like, I know, like, we know Jeff and friends with Jeff, but like, this is actually the best one. So I was like, I'm not just like, this isn't some sales pitch just because we're friends, but I love the whole business model. I love your heart. There's nothing better when you see somebody behind a phenomenal company and brand that's also an incredible human. And that's you, Jeff. So thank you so much. You're in Vegas right now on business and you're taking the time to do this podcast. So seriously, thank you. Like that's a true testament to who you are and what you stand for. So thank you so much for that. And how can people find you on social media? How can people get your book? Super stoked about that. I'm going to get that for sure.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy.
Thanks. Can you sign it for me? You just sign it.
Only as long as I get a signed copy of
the 30,000.
Yes.
The 30,000 feet combos.
Yes. Easy to connect at Fenster Jeff, my last name, first name, at Everbowl. If you want to check out Everbowl, you can email me, connect@jefffenster.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn, although I get a lot of messages there, so I'm not very timely on that one, but Instagram or email is best. Hit me up. I love, as you probably heard from the first 40 minutes of this, I love relationships. I like meeting new people. I think everyone should be accessible. We should all connect. And if I can help, I'm happy to, and interested to meet as many humans as possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. Really appreciate you taking the time, and just awesome talking to you today. We finally got it. Finally got the podcast on the calendar. Got it taken care of between our two crazy travel schedules. So just really appreciate you, friend.
Thank you. And Tori, as always, thank you so much. This was awesome. Huge fan of you. You have one of the best shows out there. So those of you who are listening, keep listening. She's a rock star.
Thanks, Jeff.